וכי נפשי es Hashem.
On page 81, this page is loaded with halachot. We're going to learn first the important halachot of carrying, the correct determination of measurement. We also, Mitzvah Shem, going to learn the atzitz nakuf, which is a plaited plans on Shabbat, a different category which is crucial to many Hilchot Shabbat. And time allow, we're going to learn also Hilchot Beit HaKiseh, the law specification in the bathroom, and kaparot. As you know, some have the minhag to use instead of tzedakah other things for kaparot in the eve of Yom Kippur. The source is Rashi in this sugya. So again, we are today on page 81. We are the Mishnah, top of the page 81. Etzem kedei la'asot tarvad. Now we speak about the shiurim, the measurement of carrying on Shabbat on different items. So the Mishnah said carrying a bone is equivalent to using a spoon. Tosfot said in the previous last part of page 80, Tosfot said that the measurement is a small spoon, the ritva, and the Rambam has a question with that size, but basically it's a small spoon that an issue. Now the big difference between Rabbi Yehuda and Chachamim, soon you see Rabbi Yehuda is disagreeing. He said, Rabbi Yehuda Omer kedei la'asot meno chaf. Rabbi Yehuda said that that's applied to make it a key. So the source is the Ramban. Rabbi Moshe ben Nachman said that the source is the measurement, the proper measurement for a vessel. Some say that it's a small measurement makes a difference. That's Rabbi Yehuda. The sages said that it's the measurement that most of the people use most of the time. If people use most of the time a certain size of measurement, for example, the sages hold kaf or even kaf katan, a small spoon, that's the current measurement that people use, and therefore that's the one we're going to use. Second part of the Mishnah, zchuchi kedei ligro bo rosh hakarkar. Soon the GEMARA said is the difference between zechuchit and sechuchit, but basically it's applied to very sharp wood part that we use in order to scrape and smooth the top of the bobbin, which means in those days when they used to sew things, that's the way they used to put it. Tzror or even kedei lizrok be'of. So the GEMARA later explained that there are certain animals, they need to move them, and they use a certain tools such as a stone to move them, to scare them, and therefore that size, it's called tzror, that size of stone, it's the size that used. The truth is that in the old GEMARA, Ktav Yad Minchen, Munich, written, it's not the word O, it's just tzror, even, the measurement of stone. Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, Bar Yaakov Omer, kedei lizrok bi b'heima. Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov said that that's totally only not for the different bird like off. They use here a pebble or things like that to throw to the bird, but he holds that that's applied to a real animal, behema, like beast or big animals, that you need a large stone. So as you see here, the big difference between Rabbi Yehuda and Chachamim, it's that what is the measure, what the carrying of on Shabbat is what is common use or what is not common use. Rabbi Yehuda said it's not necessarily by the common use, while the sages said it has to be by the common use. Now the Gemara said Lemeimra, the shiur de Rabbi Yehuda nafish. Now you're going to tell me that the measure of Rabbi Yehuda is greater. Usually you go by the sages that go by determination, which is the larger. So how come here is the opposite? So they say Kaimelan de shiur banan nafish. Usually, as we said, the sages' measurement is much larger. But Rabbi Yehuda used the smallest one, because in that sense is more machmir, is stringent, and because of that we go in that way. So if that's the case, how come it's the question of the source of the Mishnah? So how come it turned here that the opposite way? So Amar Ula chapei potachat. Here in the Talmud's time, they used to have a lacquer on those wood, lacquer made out of wood that they use by certain keys that open those lacquers. So they have those teeth, quote unquote, sharp teeth that was part of that lacquers, and that's called chaf, and it's chapei potachat, that it means that it's such a level that it's low. There is a teeth of a key, which is a very small one. Tanu Rabbanan chapei potachat teorim kvan potachat tmeim. Here we learn several halachot in regard to those lacquers. They said that these teeth of the lacquer, that you didn't install them yet, so they are ritually pure and they cannot become impure when they separate from the key. But he said kva'an bepotachat. But if one affix them with the key, which means that it's permanent, it's tmeim. Tosfot read said that even that you didn't install a lacquer in that spot. So veshel gal. However, in the teeth of a gal, which means that it's a lac which is usually used by gates. Even he attached them, those teeth, to the door and nailed them, so which means that they can use now in the door. Tehorin, it's pure. So that's important halacha, that whatever is attached to the ground, it's part of the ground, and therefore it's not accepted of the impurity, because it's considering a ground itself, and it cannot be ritually impure. Now the second part of the Mishnah says zchuchit kedei grobo. The Mishnah said that the glass is equivalent, which is the scrape, the top of the bobbin. So they said here, Tana, zchuchit with samech. Zchuchit, and zchuchit, Rashi said, it's because it's come from the word sochin in Hebrew, which is that everyone look. Zechuchit with zayin, it's something that is zach, which means that it's extremely clear. So he said, kedei liftzua ba shte nimin ke'echad, to cut two threads as once. So as a glass shard can be used in place of a knife. So that's part of Hilchot Hariga. So the Rambam said that the person who's doing Hariga, he divided those certain part. If you read the Rambam Hilchot Shabbat chapter 18, so therefore that's the measurement that he is chayav. Tzror even kedei lizrok ba'of. Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov omer kedei lizrok ba'be'ah. We said that this part of stone, it's a small stone, in order to remove or throw away a bird, throw at a bird, chase it away. Or he said that Rabbi Yaakov said that it's applied to a real animal. So Amar Rabbi Yaakov Amar Yochanan v'hu shemargeshet ba. There's a difference. If you throw a little stone at a big animal, it makes no difference, doesn't feel it. It has to be something that when they attach to the animal will move. And Rashi said that the animal ran away when they throw it. So, but Rabbi Yochanan teaches that this stone has to carry some meaning. That not everyone agree with Rashi. The Rivavans hold that as long as she feels that even she's not running away, it's enough. So again, we here speak about measurement. What's the size of the stone or the tzror? So Tan Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov mishkal 10 zuz. So again, that's in Hebrew is the measurement of 42.5 gram, which is again that's in the ancient measurement is the 10 zuz, the weight of 10 zuzim. Now we are dealing with other stones. Zunin al levet midrasha. Zunin, there are two versions. According to Rashi, zunin apply to a fellow, either Jew or a scholar, that he came and teach halachot. The Hedman and Marsha hold the following the GEMARA in Avodah Zarah that's used there the word zunin, and is applied to a non-Jew, the situation by a non-Jew. But anyway, Zunin al levet midrasha. Zunin came to the house of study. Amar lu rabotai avanim shel bet hakiseh shuan bekama. As you know, in ancient time, and everybody should please excuse me, we are going now to deal with Hilchot bet hakiseh, which is not necessarily a pleasure, but it's halachot, and halacha it's halacha. So basically, the situation is that in those days they use stones to a person for cleaning himself in the bathroom. And as you know, usually the bathroom was in a field. But here is the issue, since we're talking about stones, Zunin asked in the Beit HaMidrash, what's the size of stone that allowed to do it? So there are two versions here. What's the source of his question? One point is Rashi, that he holds that is the issue of muktzeh. Muktzeh meaning carry an item on Shabbat, meaning a stone, in order for a person to clean himself. The Ritva said that that's the issue of tiltul b'rshut harabim, that carry in a private domain, public domain. And the issue here is kvod habriot, because you don't want people to be unclean, meaning that they don't clean themselves properly. And since in those days they use stones to clean, therefore the question is what exactly the situation of cleaning, what we allow and what none. So he asks shi'uran bekama, what, since the issue of either muktzeh, and the rabbis allow it only in order to for a person clean himself, what is the measurement? When we're allowed to carry a Shabbat and how much? So the answer is Amrulo. There are three different steps: kezait, keegoz, ukeveitza, which means depend on the size, depend on the situation. It's either be a zait, which is an olive side, or keegoz, like a nut, or kebeitza, an egg. If you remember the previous page, we discussed egg size. Amarlu v'chu tirtani achnis. You're going to tell me that the guy is going to bring a measurement before you run to a bathroom. He take a measurement, now he measure the stone, and now he know what the stone he allow and what not. So the respondent said, which means that it's not a clear measurement for those stones. The exception we allow to carry a stone on Shabbat, it's as long as he carry it in one hand, it makes no difference if he carry five or one in his hand, as long as he carry in a full hand, that's enough. Tanya, to Sefta, Rabbi Yossi Omer kezait kegoz b'gutza. Now we said that the three measurement of the stones in Beit HaKiseh, it's either be kezait, kegoz, or kebeitza, olive, nut, or egg. Rabbi Yishmael, Rabbi Yossi Mishum Rabbi Kimlo Ayad. Again, this is the same version, but he just hold this the full hand. It means that that's what he heard from his son Rabbi Yishmael. Tanu Rabbanan, shalosh avanim mekurzalut mutar leachnis leveit hakiseh. So they said here the three sharpened stones may be taken to be used into the bathroom. V'chama shiuran, and what's the measurement? Now you see it's not just general, it's more specific by name of rabbis. So Rabbi Meir Omer kegoz, Rabbi Yehuda Omer kabitza. So Rabbi Meir hold is the size of a nut bark. Rabbi Yehuda said it's an egg bark. So here, Rav Bar Papa, if you remember at the end of each Masechta, we use the 10 sons of Bar Papa, that they always reconcile machloket. So here, Rav Bar Papa came and said, Amar Rav Chizda, Amar Rav Chizda, ke machloket kan, kach machloket be'etrog. Since we have one part of the four species in Sukkot is the etrog, and the Mishnah said in Sukkah 34b that shi'ur etrog katan, what is the size of the minimum measure of etrog? Rabbi Omer ke'egoz, Rabbi Yehuda said that is the size of a nut. Rabbi Yehuda said it in an egg. So that's in a juxtapose, an equivalent to both. So the Gemara asks, how do you compare Mishnah to a Braita? It's two different sources, two different time. Which means the same way as we have a disputation between the two over there, is here is the same machloket when it's come to the size of the stones. Which means, so whoever, Rashi said, whoever not remember the exact machloket, disputation in regards to the stone, he can go to that signal, to a sign of the dispute in the sukkah, and he compare. The Sfat Emet elaborate on that. We don't have time for that. Amar Rav Yehuda aval lo et hapais. Rav Yehuda said that he should not carry the pais. So the Gemara asks, Mahu pais? What exactly the pais? Amar Rabbi Zera kar shelei bivlaita. So in those days in Babylon, they have a very soft ground, and it became like a stones, a Babylonian earth. So he said the problem is that Rabbi Yehuda teach that we cannot use them in order for a person to clean himself on Shabbat. There's a different opinion between Rashi and the Rif and Rambam. The Rashi said it's just a fear of it fall apart and it will be a smush. It will not going to be a real stone. The Rif and Rambam said that it's a Toradah of Tochen. Toradah of Tochen is like crashing something, and it's the same issue that when you lift it up, it's not going to be something that used. Again, remember in those days that's the way they used to clean themselves with stones. Now another deal with using those stones. People clean themselves in different ways, so they're using the hands, the fingers. So he said a person, not just for the simple health reason, but since you're using here a stone on Shabbat, so you cannot use the same way as you use during the week. Why? So the key explanation, the rabbi said that he may cut some of the hair around that area because he's using he's using stones. So Tosfot said it's called psik ratio. Psik ratio, it means that the Shlom mitkaven that he's like indirectly cutting hair, even he's not intent to. There are others who said that it's issue that he may cut part of his skin, or it's an issue of tochen. But anyway, it's either gziza or tochen, but therefore they said that you should not use it the same as you're using during the week. So you're going to tell me that the person take a chance when he needs to go to the bathroom to put himself in a danger, because what you're basically saying that the person should be very cautious when you do that. So you're asking indirectly people not to use the bathroom often the same as you're using during the week. So basically we said in the Gemara in Brachos, a very famous Gemara that said, Brachos 25, that said that the person should not delay himself whenever he needs to go to a bathroom. So, and if you remember when we studied the Gemara in Tamid, they said that to bring to a sickness, hydrokan, and all kind of different sickness that the person enter when he's not using the bathroom whenever he needs. So he responded, he said, ki le'achar yad, meaning that for sure you can use, but you should use it in a different manner, which means, Rashi said using in two fingers, not the same. So in other words, you will not create a situation that it's a psik ratio. And or the Sfat Emet said that since all of that is forbidden only by the rabbinic, not the biblical, so in order not to carry a situation that people avoid themselves from using the bathroom, so they supersede the issue of gziza. Amar Rabbi Yanai. Now again, how many stones a person can take to a bathroom. If there is a stable place to use, so that's fine, so you use it. You can take full hand. But he said, but if it's not a permanent place for the bathroom, so you can take only the size of a nut bark, which means one stone, whatever he needs for his minimum. Another thing is medocha ktana shel besamim. So if he needs a small mortar used for crushing spices, so again, that's the way they use it. The issue is a tchina that usually cannot take it on Shabbat. So they said, which means that if something left again from others, most probably is a large size of stones, so you're allowed to use it. Now, why? Because since they use it once, people are not going to use it for spices since they use it for the bathroom. Now the Gemara raised an objection, and they said that since we said it is permitted to wipe with a stone that was already used, so they said, come on, 10 things bring a person to suffer from hemorrhoids, etc., all kind of sickness in that manner. One who eats leaves of blueberry, or va'alei gfanim, or grapes leaves, velulvei gfanim, and tendril of grapevines, umorigei behema, and palate of tongue of an animal. So Rashi here used the word kelomar, and he asked a question, and I elaborate that in my book, Biurea Klomar Berashi Rashas, why basically they're using the word morigei behema. So because Rashi have a problem here, are you talking about tools, or are you talking about skin of the animal? So Rashi said, Klomar kol makom shel basar chalak kegon klipat lashon. Rashi said that that's applied to a animal skin and not apply to a utensil or tools that they use. It's any spot on the animal's body that is mechuspas, that it's much harder to get in, not soft spot. And please visit that book, my book, and you can read more about it. Anyway, the next one is below without using a salt, again, which is a pull out the blood. ושדרו של דג, and the spine of a fish. 6. ודג מליח שלא בלבשל כל צרכו, and a salty fish that not fully cooked. והשותה שמרי יין, and one who drinks a wine drags, which is the bottom part of the wine. והמקנח בסיד, and one who cleans himself with lime and clay. ובחרסית, or with a lime and clay, or בצרוב שקנח בו חברו, or something that his a fellow used to clean himself. ויש אומרים הפוטר על עצמו בדכיסא, which means that the person who suspend himself in the bathroom as well, which means that he's not sitting but he's just bent, and meaning that it create a hemorrhoid in a different manner. So now you see here the opposite, that here earlier Rav Sheshet said that if he used the spicy part, it's not considered muktzeh, and you're allowed to use it. And here the opposite. So it said over there speak about something that it's a prohibited, it's still moist. Here is allowed because it's dry. Is another interpretation. Over there it's one side of the stone, the other one is both sides. Other side, it said this is referring to one's own stone. The other one is prohibited because it's used referring to another person's stone, which poses dangers. אמר לי, so in regard to that manner, אמר לי אביי לרב יוסף, ירדו על הגשמים תשתשו מהו, if it's a rainy water come upon that stones and they take away that part of the that they use, so the previously in the bathroom were obscure, so you allow. So they said, אמר לי, אם היה רשומם ניכר מותר. He says, if there's still sign that they're using before, which means that it's apparent, the indication before, it's permitted, since the stone remain clear, that is designated for use in the bathroom. Be'amina. So now we talk about carrying stones in Shabbat. Be'amina Rabba bar Rav Shila Merav. 81b. Rabba bar Shila raised the dilemma from Rav Chizda. Maula alotam acharav vagag. What is the halacha with taking those stones up with him to the roof in order to use it? Since it's a toach merubei, it's a big effort. It's okay or not? Amar lei gadol kvorot bichol shelochel lo taseh shel Torah. The Torah said lo tuchal litalem when it's come to a Shabbat Avida, and here it's the whole idea of kavod habriot, because it's the idea of giving respect to a certain situation allows. So, for example, if the guy who's find the lost item, he is a giant scholar, etc. So it's he allowed to ignore it. So here, carrying a stone on Shabbat is forbidden because of the issue of muktzeh. But again. Here, when it's come to Kvod HaBriot, he allowed to go and carry that stone to the top of the roof. יתיב הרמ"ר ואמר כאמר לילה או שמטה הייתי ורבינו ליוממה. רבי אליעזר אומר נתן להם כסף מלשפניו לחצות בו שיניו. So a person can take those kesamim, those things for the teeth, that to clean leftover of food between his teeth, even it wasn't prepared from before Shabbat. And he said, but it's basically issue of muktzeh. וחמורים לא ייטול אלא מן האבוס של בהמה. So if those avus, which means food for the animals, is staying there, he can use that for that purpose. But which again, it's all boiled down to the halakha that you have to prepare in advance before Shabbat. Tosfot said, and Ritva the same. You have to prepare in advance before Shabbat the food or the kesamim or whatever you need, so then you can use it. So here you see the question that according to this Braita, even there is a great need for Kvod HaBriot, they're not allowed to carry muktzeh on Shabbat. So here, why are they allowed to carry that to the top of the roof? Because basically it's inappropriate, Rashi said, for a person that they see, pieces between his teeth. So the Gemara said, can you compare the two? Hatam Adam kovea makom laseuda. Hacha Adam kovea makom lebet hakiseh. Over there, in order to prepare that part before Shabbat, it's because a person's set up a spot for the meal. But in order to carry stones for the top of the roof, a person not always know in advance where he is going to use something for the Beit HaKiseh, for the bathroom. So because of that, you're not expecting a person to prepare in advance stones, so the Seder is allowed to carry stones, because otherwise, what are you expecting people to be unclean? They cannot clean themselves because there is the issue of carrying on Shabbat. Now, in regards to carrying on Shabbat, they said, Amar Rabuna asur lipanot besde nir b'Shabbat. So, in those days in the Talmud, they used to have a plowed field. So he said a person should not use it on Shabbat. So the Gemara asked, my Tama, what's the reason? If you tell me it's because that they trades from the pharaohs and destroy them, which will be forbidden even on the weekday. It's not only on Shabbat, right? Because if you're walking in a place that was plotted that belongs to your friend, it's an issue to do it even during the week. Ve'ela mishum asavim, because there are different grasses that have grown on that. So what's the fear? That you use this stone and meanwhile you cut some of the grass. So Rish Lakish said that it's permitted to wipe with the stone upon which grass have grown, even though the grasses will be detached as a result. So he said, what's the reason? Ela dilman nakit me'ila'ei v'shada letata'ei. So maybe the fear is that one who's detached grasses from Shabbat is liable for sin offering, because he maybe take a cloud of earth from the high place and pile of dirt and throw it to a low place into a hole in the ground. So again, and that's he is basically mashve gumot. He make it straight on the ground. Umechayav mishum derabba. The Amar Rabba is liable because do what the Rabba said. Rabba said, "Hayta lo guma utmama bebayit chayav mishum boneh, besadeh chayav mishum choresh." That if a person has a hole in the house, is liable to due to a prohibition labor of building. In the field is the issue of plowing. So when you feel it, it's called choresh. It's part of the issue of plowing. Gufa. Amar Rish Lakish. Now we go to the matter itself. Rish Lakish said, "Tzror shalu asafim mutar lekaneach bo, but uleashmeno b'shabbat chayav chatat." He said that it's permitted to wipe with a stone the grasses that have grown, but one who detach grasses from the ground, b'shogeg, unwittingly, on Shabbat is liable to bring a sin offering. So Amar of Papi, Shma Milamid Rish Lakish. Now we learn from what Rish Lakish said, that you're allowed to carry a stone, that they have some grass grown on that, and use it, and it's not the issue of tolesh, of cutting some of those stones. So he said, Hai, parpisa sharei letil tulei. So he said that it's a parpisa, it's called a perforate flow part, you're allowed to carry it. So here we go to a Rashi. He said that atzitz nakuv it's like a parpisha, is a potted plant. So you're allowed to carry it on Shabbat, and you don't say that he's tolesh in cutting something from the place that he was grown. Rashi said, עציץ נקוב שזרעו בו בתשובת הכהנים מצאתי שעושים חותמות מכפות מרים עולים אותם עפר וזבל בהמהמה. So and then this is the source of all the idea of kaparot. Fascinated, it said, ולפני ראש שנה עושים כל אחד ואחד לשם כך, וקטנה בבית וזורקים את פועל המצרי, ובערב ראש שנה יותר כל אחד שלו מחזירו סביבו 7 פעמים, ואומר זה תחת זה, דרך הלבטי, זה דובדים בשליחון נהר. So you see here several things for Rashi. First of all, here and in several other places in the Shas, our sages examined the whole halacha of the tzitz nakuf, which is the potted plants which with hole on its pot. When such a pot rests on the earth floor, it draws nutrients from the earth through the holes and its pot. So it's therefore considered attached to the ground in all aspects. So the agricultural laws that apply to plants rooted in the earth soil, such as Trumot Masrot, fully apply to this case, because in Masechet Gittin, the GEMARA discussed the case of the Atzitz Nakuf, which is suspended in the air above the earth. And they ask a question: does it continue to draw nutrients from the earth to the earth or not? So this question was practical relevant regarding to the mitzvah of separating trumot and maasrot produce. It's an elevated plant still draws in its nature from the ground. Then it's obligated to trumot and maasrot bidoraita from the Torah, like any other plant that grows on the earth. However, it is ceased to draw nature from the ground, then it's like plant, it is sealed pot, which is only obligated to Trumot U'Masrot mid'Rabanan. So, in regard to Hilchot Shabbat, our sugya here states that if someone found an Atzitz Nakuv on the ground and lifted it into the air, he is liable, right? So because by lifting, he is basically plunks from the ground, and it's a violation of Melechet Tolesh, which is harvesting. And this brings the case that here the our sugya seems to resolve the issue from the Atzitz Nakuv, which once lifted up, it is no longer considered attached to the ground, and consequently is exempt from Trumot U'Masrot mid'Oraita. So Tosfot here, however, rejects this conclusion, and although the whole idea of chayav and obligated usually does refer to a Torah prohibition, in this case it's only chayav b'drabanan. Why? According to a Torah law, a plant that elevated from the ground it's still considered a attach. Nevertheless, our sages forbid lifting up, since it resembles harvesting. So this is the answer is basically sufficient to resolve the GEMARA here. And Reb Chaim Halevi of Brisk, just a side note, addressed this question and offer the whole distinction in all these halachot. When a plant grows from the ground, so he said that it's physically attached to the ground, it's also drawing nutrients from the ground. So in order for a plant to be obligated in Trumot U'Masrot mid'Oraita, it must draw its nutrients from the ground. However, it needs to be physically attached to the ground. Even if it draws its nutrients to the air, it still nourishes from the ground. And it's therefore obligated to Trumot U'Masrot. For this reason, the Rambam rule that Atzitz Nakuv suspended in the air is obligated to Trumot U'Masrot. So now, in regard to Melechet Tolesh and Shabbat, harvesting is one disconnects a plant from its physical connection to the ground, even though it continues to draw nourishes from the earth. So therefore, the Rambam rules that lifted the potted plants in the ground is Tolesh, since the physical connection is severed. Now, you see another important halacha, which is the whole idea of the kaparot with the potted plant. So we have the minhag of kaparot before Rashi says Rosh Hashanah, before Yom Kippur. It's a very ancient minhag, and it's a very well-known custom among many communities. So yes, the Shulchan Aruch has his own idea that the person should use the tzedakah, but the Ramah encourage it, and the Ramah said that some Gonim and many Acharonim cite this custom. In this practice, all countries it should be abandoned, and the custom is for the pious. So here you see the early source of that idea of kaparot, of the circling around the head and everything. It's from this Rashi. The Rashi here bring it clearly. The whole idea that they use it in the name of the Shuvat HaGeonim, that's the custom, the time of the Talmud, that people used to use it around their head. It's important also to know that Khatam Sofer said that the whole idea of Atzitz Nakuv is the issue of kritat zar'o, that you're cutting off the ground. And he said something that, again, you need to know the mindset. Khatam Sofer said that the best is to use Atzitz Nakuv for Yom Kippur, because if Chaz v'Sholom, it's a little Kabbalistic. He said that if someone has a heavenly severe punishment of, God forbid, cutting off his offspring, he is taking this atzitz nakub, this potted, and he used it, and he said, Ze Khalifati, that will be a substitute for my descendants. Again, you have to read the Khatam Sofer in his source. Mat Kevla Rav Kahana, Im Amru, if the sages said that you're allowed to use a stone, Letzorech, we mean for the Kvod HaBriot, for the honor of people that should not stay unclean on Shabbat, Yomru Shelo Letzorech. So they can also, he said, when you don't need it, which means not really. So the only idea that Reish Lakish allow to use this type of thing that you have grass on it, because use it for clean. So it means that the atzitz nakuv, that platted one, it's still prohibited. So Amar Abaye parpisa hoil ve'atal yadan lema milta. So since we discussed this issue of atzitz nakuv, which is a important issue in many places in the Shas, so we shall discuss other manner in the potted plant. And what are they? So he said, Haya munach al gaber karka ve'limor al beit edot michayav. He said, if someone have it in the underground and he lifted on yetedot, so what's the reason? So he said, mishum tolesh, which is the melechet kotzer. Why? So the Meforshim said that he is mema'et yenikato me'akarka, that he reduced the amount that for that plant to use the ground as a source for living, which means to survive. Haya munach al gabei yetedot ve'nicho al gaber karcha mishum notea. If it was some yetedot that hold it and he pull it out and put it in the ground, so he's basically planting it. Why? Because it's called marbe koach hayenika. He increased the ability of that potted plant to, in our language, to eat, to drink more from the ground. So either way, it's either kotzer or zoreh. Amar Rabbi Yochanan asur lekaneach becheres b'Shabbat. Rabbi Yochanan said that should not use a part of that cheres in Shabbat clean. Ma'itama. What's the reason that is forbidden? Ilema mishum sakana. If you tell me that it's dangerous, which means that is in that stone you can touch part of you and can cut those muscles that hold that part. Afilu b'chol name. Even during the week it's forbidden, because you create damage for yourself. Ela mishum kshafim, maybe it's because of issue of witchcraft. So basically witchcraft we're going to discuss later in the next page too, the whole idea of witchcraft, what's the use, etc. But in general, very general statement, here a person exposed himself to that problem. So they said, afilu b'chol namelo, even during the week is forbidden. Ve'ela mishum hasharat nimim, which means that there are some hair around that spot that this stone can cut. It's called gozez, cutting. So they said davar shelo mitkavenu. So this is Rabbi Shimon said that later Rashi hold that davar shelo mitkaven, if you didn't intend to cut the hair and it happens that you cut, so it's okay. So he explained, Amar Rav Nachman bar Ushaya Gavra Rabba Amar Milta Neima Batama. Since Rabbi Yochanan is a great man, great scholar, we should search to see what he meant. Lo mibayel bechol de'asu. We are now, it's obvious that we doing the weekly day that you cannot carry that. Why? Because of the witchcraft which you see. So it's obvious. Aval b'Shabbat u'il v'ika torat kli alav shapir dami. Because it's not muktzah in Shabbat, it's considering a utensil that you use to clean yourself. So kamash melan. So Rabbi Yochanan said that when it's come to cheres, you should not use it on Shabbat, because again, because it's the fear that maybe those muscles that hold that part of the body, or because he's afraid of witchcraft. So that's the issue that it's prohibited. Now, Khatam Sofer, as I said, have a lot to say on this. Anyway, Rava Matnela. Now we're going to elaborate on that Rabbi Yochanan rules. Mishum hasarat nimim, asharat nimim. He said that because he cutting, remove some of the hairs. V'kashel ad Rabbi Yochanan contradict himself. Mi amar Rabbi Yochanan asur lekaneach becheres b'Shabbat, which Rabbi Yochanan also said that it's forbidden to wipe out on earthware shared on Shabbat. he said, Alma, דבר שמתכוון אסור. So it means that if you don't intend to cut something, but it's indirectly happened, so you're still obligated. ואמר רבי יוחנן אחר כך סתם משנה, רבי יוחנן said what we said in Nazir, page 42, he said, Nazir חופף ומפספס, that a person who's a Nazirite is allowed to do what? He's allowed to go ahead and wash his hair in a weekday, and sand and natron, and separate with his finger. So maybe it happened that while he's doing that, while he's separating his hair, he may be cut off his hair and he's obligated not to do it. אבל לא סורק, however, is not come with because of using the common hair, you may be cut off some of the hair. So you see here that is a regular Mishnah that hold that if you don't intend to do it, you use that stone, and meanwhile you cut some of the hair. So since you don't intend to cut the hair, it's okay. So if that's the case, why are Yochanan not allowed to use earthware for a person to kill himself? It has to be according to the explanation of Natan Bar Ushaya. Which is it? So that he says either because of danger or because of the witchcraft. So now we explain it. Mike Shafin. What is in the witchcraft that involved with wiping with the earthware shared? What's the problem? So he said, here's a story. So this great rabbi was going on a boat. So so they saw this lady, matronita, certain matron. So he said, let me sit with you. And they did not let her go with them. So there are several explanations. Either because they don't want to go with her because of the yichud, being alone with women, or because they knew that she is a witchcraft and they have issues with her. Amra himilta asra le'arba. So she used certain words, certain magic, or whatever it is the word, and as a result, they couldn't move. The boat stopped. Amru inhu milta. So in response, those rabbis using different words, and v'shariuha. They say something, the holy name, and they free her. So Rashi said in Chulin, Kuf Hey 105, that they also understand all kind of things, and they in order to save themselves they use it. But there is another explanation that said that it's more Hasidic, it's the name of Baal Shem Tov, that the word said Mechashefa lo techayeh. The Torah said in the Shmot in Exodus 22, you should not to have among you a witchcraft. An abbreviation of that word is the Mem, Mechashefa lo techayeh, Mem Lamed Taf. So Amru inu milta, Mem Lamed Taf, they use this word Milat, that it's the Rashi Tevot, the abbreviation of Mechashefa lo techayeh. And since they use that word, is basically knock out her intent to lock them there. So she said to them, what will I do with you to enable me to harm you with witchcraft? Why? 82. That you not clean yourself with the earthware shared, and you not kill lice on your garment, which means the rabbis make sure that they remove the lice and then kill it, but not while they're on their garment. And also you not pull out a vegetable and eat it before you need to bundle it and tie it in a gardener, which means you pull it out and then you eat it, which means all these things expose the person. Again, we're not talking Kabbalah here, but this expose a person to a certain danger of witchcraft. So so now it's in regards to Ravuna asked his son, why are you not going to a great sage like Rav Chizda? He's teaching a lot of halachot. The Mechaled Ashmatan, that he is teaching a very important halachot. So they said, this is a famous Gemara in Eruvin, in Samech Zayin. So they said, Amar le, ma izin gabei, dechiaz le gabei, motiv le mila de alma. I'm not going to him. He's always, when I went to him, every time he's talking about mundane, daily mundane things. He's not teaching a very important things. Amar le, Monday, I'll give you an example. He said, so he said, a person who go, I heard from him saying that the person should go to the bathroom, he should be careful. He should not go quick, sitting fast, and use himself strong, and putting extra arduous effort in a quick way. Why? Because it's sitting on the very important three muscles, and these three muscles is called in Talmudic language teeth, and this maybe move out, and it's not just hemorrhoid, it can carry all kind of diseases. Dilma mishtamta shine de karkashta, maybe those teeth to come out, those muscles, and he enter the domain of dangers. It's like speech muscles. So if they tear, it can create all kind of diseases, rectal prolapse or things like that. It's also other diseases can come out of that. Amarle, come on, who asik b'chayli b'traita v'tamir mel d'alma? What are you talking about? This rabbi is talking about life of a people, how a person survive properly and live properly, and you tell me that he's talking just about daily mundane, not important things? You must go to him. Look, he's even teach you about medicine, about how to live properly, so that's even better to go and learn from him. So, okay, so now we go back to the whole idea of the process. So he said, so now we said that there is a level of gradation. If a person he need to relieve himself, he need to wipe, and has before him a stone or earthware, so he should wipe with the stone, and does not wipe with earthware share, since he might injure himself. So Rav Chizda amar mekanech beker cheres ve'mekanech b'tzror. Rav Chizda said that he wipes with the earthware share and does not wipe with the stone, which is set aside. So now you see that in the objection that if we had before the stone and the earthway, so they said the wipe with the earthware and not with stone. So that's contradicted what we said earlier. So GEMARA from Papa. Remember, Rav from Papa is the rabbi that always reconcile problems. He said that it's applied to rhymes of vessels which pose no danger. So now they said if there were before him stone and grasses, with regard to preferred method to wipe on Shabbat, so it's a machloket. Chad amar, one of them we don't know which one, so we just use the word chad. Chad amar mekanech b'tzror v'mekanech b'asavim. Said one said that wipe with stone and not with wipe with grasses. Chad amar mekanech b'asavim v'no mekanech b'stone. So b'tzror, I'm sorry. So said the other one said that wipe with grasses, that not wipe with a stone. Meiti והמקנח בדבר שהוא שוללת בו שיניו תחתונות נושרות. So they said one wipes something flammable, his lower teeth which hold the intestines in place fall out. So how come we allow it, right? One clean himself with this type of grasses. So lo kasha belachin rabbi yishim. It's not a question because this one is talking about the moist grass, which is again is moist versus the other one is a dry one. So when you think of dry, it's different. Remember that nowadays is different. Those days use the field to clean themselves, so it's a very different method. Anyway, הניצרך לפנות ולא נפלה. Now we talk about very serious diseases that it's in regard to this topic. Someone need to release himself, right, and does not do it. Rav Chizda v'Ravina. It's a two opinion. Chad amar ruach ra'a sholet bo. One said that evil spirit dominates here. V'chad amar ruach zohama sholet bo. And the other one said an odor or field dominates him because he's carries something that Tanya כמאן דאמר רוח זוהמה שולטת בו לתניא נצרת לבחנה ואוכל דומה לקנוש שסיגו על גבי רפואו וזו תחילת רוח זוהמה. So said if someone needs to go to the bathroom and now we go to eat, so it's comparable to an oven that was heated on top of its ashes, and that is onset of an odor or field, which means it's wrong. Now, מישהו צריך לפנות ואינו יכול לפנות, if someone needs to go to the bathroom and he somehow cannot, which again, that's a part of the issue of constipation. Rav Chizda yamod v'yeshev yamod v'yeshev. Rav Chizda had a very good advice. He said he will stand and sit like exercise. So maybe because it's not a moving part of those intestines, that's the issue of holding him. But if he does that, he can have this peristalsis, which means that carry the issue of relieving the constipation. Rav Chanan min ahar de'amar istalek l'tzedadin. So in other words, he moved to a different location, comes back, because again, this is expedites the muscles inside. Rav Amnuna אמר לשמש בצרו באותו מקום. Rav Amnuna said he used certain stone in that spot, which means again it's expedites. It's like using certain materials in our days that help. Rabbanan Amri yasiach dato. Rabbanan said that he basically should think, whole divert on his thought on this matter. So that's again, it's related to the mind. So now they said, Amar leRav Chabri leRav Rashi, kol dekin tzrichim asar latelu mipnei. So come on, if he's not thinking about it, so he's not going to release. He said, Amar leyasir dato midvarim acherim, which means he focused only on this and shouldn't think about life mundane problem. Amar Rav Yirmiyah midifti ledidi chazli yahu taya'a. I saw an Arab. I saw a guy, an Arab merchant that used to stand and sit many times, and suddenly I saw that he released himself in abundance. So it means that he learned from this fellow that he can do it with no big to do, just to exercise properly that muscles and help. If someone go to a permanent meal, which means to go to eat, so he said, he should go 10 hand cubit 10 times, which means exercise, 10 times 10 amot, and then he should release himself before he eat a permanent meal, and then he clean all the non-need part of his body, and doesn't need to stand and go to the bathroom at the middle of the meal. Last Mishnah of this parak. חרס כדי ליתן בו פצים לחברו דברי רבי יהודה, רב מאיר אומר כדי לחטות בו את ההוא, רבי יוסי אומר כדי לקבל בו רביעית. So now we is dealing with cheres, with earthware that in Shabbat that is liable of a measure equivalent to which is used to place between one pillar to another. So that's the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. Meir said that measure equivalent is used to stoke a fire with it. Rabbi Yossi said that it's you hold a quarter of a log. Rabbi Meir said it's no proof of this matter. It's Amar Meir lechavra but bishen raya. The bar even it's not a biblical source. Zecher l'davar is the implication, because they said in the book of Isaiah, "V'lo yimatzeh b'mechtato cheres lechtot esh miyakud," because they said, and there shall not be found among its pieces a sherd to wreak fire on the earth. Amar Rabbi Yossi misham raya. Rabbi Yossi said, here you bring a proof. He says, "V'lachsof mayim migeve." You should bring from the source that said, and to extract water from his cistern, which means that the earthware is significant if it's large enough to hold water. Now the Gemara asks a question: Ibayalu shiur ad Rab Meir nafish or shiur ad Rabbi Yossi nafish? So they said, which measure you go by, Rab Meir or Rabbi Yossi? It appeared that it's reasonable to say the measure of Rabbi Yossi is greater. Umikra de shiur ad Nefi nafish. Base of the verse that we brought, that the measure of Meir is greater. So now he said this, if it's entered to your mind, the opposite that you go by the Rabbi Yossi, leit la b'man azutra, v'adar leit la b'man araba. So in other words, a person is saying that a small vessel is not found, then he curses him in saying a large vessel will be found. Usually people curse not using this type of language. Amar Abaye said, matnitin name lachtot esh mimdura gdola. So he said that the Mishnah is also referring to a large sherd of earthquake required to store the fire of a large conflagration, which means even as the Mishnah of measure is much larger. Even to take a small gachelet from the large place, it's enough. Rabbi Yossi said that that's the source, that's the proof. Velachsof mayim migeve, that's the pasuk, is the Shafir Kamal Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yossi said it right. ורב מאיר לא מבעיה לך כאמר, לא מבעיה מי דחשיב לאיש שלא ישכח לי, אלא אפילו מי לא יחשיב לאיש לא ישכח לי. So he said, according to Rab Meir, explained that there is no need to say that an item that is significant to people, which means large share of earthquake, to store the fire shall not be found, but even an item that is insignificant to people, which share to extract water, shall not be found. So therefore, the conclusion of the verse does not contradict Rab Meir's opinion. Hadran alach hamotzi mayim datan alach, hadran alach datan mitzayim datan alach, niten shem motzi mayim niten shem neach lo ba'al ma'adein v'lo ba'al ma'atein. We said that we're going to revisit that chapter speedily soon. Today we discuss a measurement of liability of carrying. So we said that etzem, this is Rambam Sefer Zmanim Hilchot Shabbat. a measure that determines liability for carrying out a bone on Shabbat is equivalent to its use to make a spoon. Which is what about glass? So they said equivalent to use to scrape a bobbing head to cut out a thread together. The measure that carrying a pebble or a stone on Shabbat is equivalent to use to throw an animal which is approximate size of 10 zuz. Again, that's Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov's opinion. Now, we learn also about the bathroom stones. So due to human dignity, the rabbis permitted people to carry stone to a bathroom on Shabbat to use for wiping. So they go ahead and they said not just that, but even can go to the roof. How about the moving clothes of Babylon earth? So it said that this prohibited to move a cloth on earth on Shabbat, the bathroom, since it's not suitable for bathroom use. Manipulating with the stones is prohibited also. The only way it's if it's an urgent need and there's no other way around. In general, avanei bet hakiseh, stones that used in the bathroom in those ancient times, it's permitted to use a stone that is larger than one's hand on Shabbat if it's clear that it has already been used for once for wiping. Now, it's also applied to taking stones for the roof or the plowed field. Now, we learn also the stone upon which grass is grown. So again, the concern is that if it's detached from the grass or not. So basically we say that a stone with grass growing, it may be used for wiping on Shabbat, and it's not the issue of tolesh, or detach. Because one who detach grass from a stone on Shabbat is liable just as like who uproots a plant from the ground. But both, it's called a violation of reaping. Now, we talk about parpisa, which is a tzitz nakuv, perforated flower pot. So one lifted or a cloth on earth and a plant from the ground is liable for labor of detaching. And we explain that these are different if it's fully attached or not fully attached. And we explain also that a stone on the earth will share, one who shares stone and smooth already shared before him should wipe shared on Shabbat. So the whole idea is you have to remember that all of those in those days that's people used to carry out those cheres, those earth were shared on Shabbat for the purpose of bathroom. But in our days, since we are in the modern days, we don't use that, so therefore it's an issue of tiltul and issue of muktzeh on Shabbat.
es Hashem